Good morning everyone. Today we will discuss about chapter 1 of geography, class 10, resource and development. Here is a brief content what we will be reading in this chapter, resource and development. Chapter 1 of class 10 geography introduces you to resources and its classification. Furthermore, going into the depth of the chapter, you will learn about the development of resources, resource planning, land degradation, measures to solve the problems of land degradation, soil as a resource, then types of soil, then conservation of resources. Okay. Now, you may ask me one question, that what is the objective of learning this chapter? Yes, children, there is one objective for learning this chapter is to make you understand the value of resources and the need for its conservation and judicious use of its resources. Okay. Now, we will discuss about the first topic, what is a resource. You must have learned, you must have read about the definition of resources in your junior classes, like resource, anything which satisfies your needs, that is your resource. But here a little bit different definition is given, like everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, along with provided it is technologically accessible, economically feasible and culturally acceptable, that can be termed as a resource. Now, what are the meaning of these three words? Technologically accessible, economically feasible and culturally acceptable. What about these three words? Because the definition is focused on or focus on these three words. Let us discuss it one by one. Suppose there is a petroleum or crude oil is found below the temple or any mosque. You need to have technology for drilling or for extracting the resource. This resource, I mean the petroleum. Okay. The technology is required, because if you do not have the technology, how will you extract the resource? It's next to impossible. You cannot extract the resource. So, what is required at present? At first, technology is required. Got it? Now, the second one is economically feasible. Feasibility, what is that feasibility? Whether it is possible to do or advantageous or not. But here in this context, that whether it is advantageous for extracting the resources. I mean, which resource? Petroleum or not. So, you should have the money, you should have that much money so that you can buy the technology. Okay, because technology and buying technology and money, both are dependent on each other. So, technology is required for what? For extracting the resource, and for that you should have enough finance or money. Clear? Now, another word is given here, culturally acceptable. What is that culturally acceptable? Culturally acceptable, as I gave you one example, that if the petroleum or crude oil is found just below the temple, or you have or you simply know about this thing, that if something or wherever the resources are found, that and you need to extract it, for that the people agree on this or not. People agreement, is it necessary? Yes, it is necessary, because I have just now given you the example that the below temple or below mosque that the crude oil is found. Now, would the people allow you to extract this resource? And if they allow you, they will have to demolish either temple or mosque, right? Because without demolishing these two, we cannot extract this resource. Which resource? The petroleum. So, the demolition of these are required and is necessary, because then only you can extract this petroleum. It means that the people are well aware, or they have understood, or they have understood the importance of petroleum, then they would allow you for extracting this resource. So, culturally acceptable, it means that the people have accepted this, that yes, petroleum is required for the welfare, petroleum is required, or petroleum, extracting the petroleum is beneficial for the society or for the nation. Got it? So, what is that? Technologically accessible, economically feasible and culturally acceptable. Okay, now let me give you another example. Suppose if you have gone to any mall or any shop, you have visited to these places, you can see variety of biscuits, or variety of biscuits are there in that mall. Not necessary that the biscuit which you would buy would be bought by everyone. It is a personal choice. The people would, different people would buy the different types of, or the different variety of biscuits. It means that it is available, the variety of biscuits are available in a shop or in a mall, and so it is, and if the variety is available, then that is acceptable by the people, culturally acceptable. It means that the people have accepted the variety of biscuits. Okay, so this is for everyone, right? Another one is given here with this, with the help of this triangle. What is given? That interdependent relationship between nature, technology and institutions. This triangle shows that human beings are at center, and at the top physical environment, technology on the left hand side and institutions. So, how are they interdependent on each other? Is it necessary for these three, or along with the humans, that they have to be interdependent for the development of resource? Yes, because the process of transformation of things available in our environment involves an interdependent relationships between nature, technology and institutions. Okay. Human beings interact with nature through what? Through technology, and create institutions to accelerate their economic development. You can better understand if I give you the example of coal. Suppose coal is found on the earth's surface without, you have not started utilizing the coal. It would remain as it is on the surface of the earth. But the moment you start utilizing the coal in different ways, then it would be your, then it would become the resource. Okay. So, this is what human beings. So, how would it be a resource? The human beings would start utilizing the coal with the help of what? Technology. How to process it, how to transform this coal into a usable product. So, this is what, that was your another example. Now, I would like to ask you one question, that do you think that the resources are free gifts of nature as it is assumed by many? No, they are not. Why? It is only because nature has provided us the different resources, the different free gifts of nature. The gift. Nature has provided us the gift in the form of resource, but it is human beings who transform it. It is human beings that, with the needs and requirements, that we start transforming or utilizing these free gift of nature into a useful product. Okay. So, resources are the function of human activities. Human beings themselves are essential components of resources. They transform material value available in our environment into resource, and then we start using them. Otherwise, all the free gift of nature would remain as it is on the surface of the earth. Now, we will have to discuss about the different types of resources, or it is the classification, the resources classification. With the help of this mind map, I would like to tell you something about the classification. What is given here, that the resources are classified into two broad categories, natural and human, and then the natural resources are categorized further into renewable, non-renewable, and renewable further categorized into two: continuous, biological, and then biological further categorized into natural vegetation and wildlife, and then non-recyclable, non-renewable, that non-renewable classified into recyclable and non-recyclable, and the human another classification, that is what human divide. The classification is structures and quantity and quality. So that was your broad classification. We will discuss about all these resources in detail. Biotic, on the basis of the origin, the resources are classified as biotic and abiotic. And biotic, living things, as you can see here, and non-living things, water, soil, light, minerals, air. And living things, your plants, animals, vegetations, and all these are, okay, biotic, living, and abiotic, non-living, as you have read it in your junior classes also. On the basis of origin, then when it is categorized into biotic and abiotic, then the biotic, it is obtained from biosphere, have life, and for example human beings, flora, as just now I told you, and abiotic resources, that is composed of non-living things or rocks and minerals, okay, or metals. Then the another one is with the help of this figure, you can see that the environment, or dividing the environment into two biotic factors and abiotic factors. Biotic, what is shown here, vegetations, okay, and then another one, abiotic factors, land and water is shown. So this word do not have life, here it is, they are obtained from biosphere. Now, second classification is your on the basis of exhaustibility. What is given here on the basis of exhaustibility? That renewable and non-renewable resources. So, what is renewable resources? Renewable resources can be renewed, okay, can be renewed or reproduced by physical, chemical, or mechanical processes, and therefore it is known as what? Renewable or replenishable. In other words, you can say replenishable resources. For example, solar and wind energy, water, forest, and wildlife. The renewable resources may further be divided into, as with the help of that mind map I have told you, that the renewable resources may further be divided into continuous or flow. Now, another one is your non-renewable resources. What are these non-renewable resources? These occur over a long geological time. These occur over a very long geological time, non-renewable. They are not renewed or replenished. Minerals and fossil fuels are examples of such resources, because these resources take millions of years in their formation, and it means that they take millions of years as far as the formation of these resources are concerned. Some of the resources like metals are recyclable, and some like fossil fuels cannot be recycled and get exhausted with their use, because when you use the minerals that can be, or metals, these can be, especially the metals can be recycled, and then we can use it in different ways or many a times we can use it. And the fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, and they cannot be recycled, neither they can be recycled, but the important thing about them is that they get exhausted with their use. That is why this is the reason that we are looking for alternative sources of energy, and in fact the world has already looked for this and we are using the another alternative sources of energy, tidal, then your geothermal, then your you can say that solar and all these. Well, so I think you must have understood about this exhaustibility, that the resources can also be classified on the basis of exhaustibility. One is your renewable, another one is your non-renewable. Then on the basis of ownership, what about this? On the basis of ownership, that the resources are classified into individual, then your community owned resources, then your national and international resources. Okay. Then the first one, we would take up the first one, individual resources. These are owned privately by individuals. Many farmers own land which is allotted to them either by the government or they have their own land. So if they are allotted by the government, it means that against the payment of revenue they are allotted by the government. And in the villages there are people with the land ownership, but there are many who are landless. So urban people own plots, houses and other property. Plantation, pasture lands, ponds, watering wells are some of the examples of what? Examples of resources or ownership by individuals. Whatever you have with you, that is your own resource, individual. For example, your book, your bag, your pen, your marker, your highlighter, all these are your own resources. Okay. Then another one is your community owned resources. What is that community owned resources? Community owned resources are those resources which are accessible to all the members of the community. There is no restriction here. Everyone in a society or community can reach to these resources. Okay, and a person cannot reclaim this, that this is my personal property, right? So this is owned by, or this is what owned by the members of the community, and this resource is for everyone. The village commons, grazing lands, burial grounds, village ponds, public parks, picnic spots, playgrounds, all these are what? All these are your community based resources or community owned resources. Okay, community here means what? That it is for everyone. Now, another one is your national resources. What is that, national resources? National resources here means all the resources belong to a particular nation. Okay, the country has legal powers to acquire even private property for public good. How is it so? Remember, I can give you one example. Yamuna expressways. Many farmers have lost their land, or the government has taken their land. Okay, and the construction of this Yamuna expressway had taken place. You know, and that is for the Yamuna. What was the reason behind it? What was the reason? If government has taken the land of the farmers, then why? It's only because that the construction of Yamuna expressway is not for individual or for one person. It's for everyone. Okay, for everyone, and that is for public good, right? So you might have seen roads, canals, railways, all these are being constructed on the fields owned by some individuals. Why? Because the government takes the land. So, it's the government has the power, the government has the legal power, the government is authorized to take your land, okay, for the public good, for the construction of roadways, railways, for public good. So, urban development authorities get empowered by the government to acquire land. Okay. So, all the minerals, water resources, forests, wildlife, land within the political boundaries and oceanic area up to 12 nautical miles. What is that? Up to 12 nautical miles. It means that 22.2 kilometers from the coast, termed as territorial water and resource therein belong to the nation. So, what is that? All the land, all the political boundaries and oceanic, all the minerals, water resource, forest, wildlife, land within the political boundaries and oceanic area up to 12 nautical miles from the coast of your country is termed as territorial water and resources therein belong to the nation. So, the nation has the right to exploit the resources up to 12 nautical miles from the coast. Clear? Now, what about the international resources? International resources here means that these are some resources which are regulated by international institutions. International institutions, okay. Now, oceanic resources beyond 200 nautical miles, remember here 200 nautical miles. The oceanic resources beyond 200 nautical miles of the exclusive economic zone belong to open ocean and no individual country can utilize these resources without the concurrence of international institutions. Okay. So, what is that in fact? Not a single country in the world has the right to exploit the resources up to up to 200 nautical miles. If a country, but you may ask me, then in between 12 nautical miles and 200 nautical miles, if the resources are found there, then can it be exploited by any country? Yes, it can be exploited by any country, but the permission has to be taken from the United Nations. This organization will give you consent, then only the resources between 12 nautical miles and 200 nautical miles can be exploited, but provided if those resources will help for the growth and development of any particular nation. Okay? Then that is your what? Exclusive economic zone. So, what is that in fact? An exclusive economic zone is a sea zone prescribed by the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, over which a state has special rights regarding the exploration and use of marine resources, including energy productions from the water and wind. And just now I told you that if the growth and the development of any country is dependent on the oceanic resources or the marine resources, then the United Nations give you the permission for exploiting the resources available in between 12 to 200 nautical miles. Here it is given with the help of this map. You can see that 12 nautical miles and 200 nautical miles. So, there are two lines, one is pink and another one is yellow. So, in between 12 to 200 nautical miles, that a country can use this. Whereas, the one is the pink color is showing territorial water, Another one is the yellow is showing contagious zone, and the third one is your exclusive economic zone. Okay, but what is that? You should know about the territorial waters or the contiguous zone. The term territorial waters is sometimes used informally to refer to any area of water over which a state has the jurisdiction. The state has a jurisdiction to 12 nautical miles, including internal waters and the territorial sea, the contiguous zone, the exclusive economic zone, and potentially the continental shelf. Okay. So, what is that territorial water? The state has the right, or the state has jurisdiction to use its resources up to 12 nautical miles or territorial water from the coast. Now, another one is the contiguous zone, that was shown with the help of which color? Yellow color. Contiguous zone is a band of water extending further from the outer edge of the territorial sea to up to 12 nautical miles from the baseline, within which a state can exert limited control for the purpose of preventing or what? Punishing. Okay, that, have you understood? Then the contiguous zone is a band of water extending further. You cannot extend up to this contiguous zone unless and until you have got the permission. Okay, that was your contiguous zone. Permission from where? From the United Nations. Then only you can exploit those resources. Now, another classification is your status of development, that the resource can also be classified on the basis of a status of development. The first one is your potential resources. What is that potential resources? Resources which are found in a region but have not been utilized. For example, the western parts of India, particularly Rajasthan and Gujarat, have enormous potential for the development of wind and solar energy, but so far these have not been developed properly. We have developed it, but not properly. We can develop it in on a very broad manner. Maybe there are some reasons, financial lack of finance or the government policy, so that we have not developed it on broader scale, but we have started developing these two states, I mean these two states, solar or the wind energy. Resources which are found in a region but have not been utilized. It means that the regions have the resources. Resources are found in a particular region, but we have not been using it, right? It can be utilized in future. Another one is your developed resources. Resources which are surveyed and their quantity and quality have been determined for utilization. It means that after surveying, whether aerial or manually or terrestrial survey, that we can tell about the quantity and the quality of the resources, that in a particular region the 200 tons of coal has been found, but the quality of the coal is poor and the quantity is 200 tons. So, this is what that exact quantity and the quality that we know about that, and that has been determined whether, and then whether we can utilize it or not. If it is of poor quality, we can use it in different ways or in different for the different purposes, and the quality, if the quality is poor, we can use it, we cannot use it for producing the electricity or some other purposes, but the quantity, as far as the quantity, we can keep it 200 tons of coal is there, so we can keep it for in the form of reserve. We can use it in our future, we are keeping it. So, this is what the development of resources depends upon the technology and level of their feasibility. Okay. Have you understood then? that the development of resources depends on the technology, that do we have the technology or not, and how much it is feasible, or the level of their feasibility, whether is it possible to for us to use those coal or any resource or not. So, this is what, that the development of resource or resources depends on the technology and level of their feasibility. Another one is your stock. What is that? Stock. Stock, materials in the environment which have the potential to satisfy human needs, but human beings do not have the appropriate technology. What is the meaning of this? That the materials in the environment have the potential. Suppose in Africa, in this continent, there are some countries which have enormous potential to develop the resources, the natural resources, but that can be utilized by the people. But human beings do not have, either those countries do not have the technology, okay, either those countries do not have the appropriate technology, and even if they have, because it all depends upon the needs and requirements of the people, that the people would like to exploit the available resources or not, okay. So, what is that? That the human beings do not have the appropriate technology, either in that case, I mean those countries, because they are, the countries are very poor, they do not have the appropriate technology. The poor African countries do not have the appropriate technology to access these resources. To access these resources, they are included among stock. So, have you understood what is that, a stock? There is a plenty of resources available in a particular region, but due to the lack of technology or due to the lack of appropriate technology, we are unable to exploit those resources, okay. For example, water is a compound of two inflammable gases, hydrogen and oxygen, which can be utilized or which can be used as a rich source of energy, but we do not have the required technical know-how to use them for this purpose. Hence, it can be considered as a stock. We do not have the appropriate technology. Got it? We do not have the technical know-how to use them for the different purposes. So, this is what it can be considered as a stock. Got it? So, the fourth one is your reserve. What is that, reserve? Reserves are the subset of the stock which can be put into use with the help of existing technical know-how, but their use has not been started. Reserves are the subset of the stock which can be put into use with the help of existing technical know-how, but their use has not been started. Okay. These can be used for meeting future requirements. We have kept the resources for meeting the future requirements. With the help of existing technical know-how, we can put into use with the help of existing technical know-how, but we are not using it. We have the appropriate technology, we have the technology, and that too advanced technology, we can use them, but no, we are not using it. Why? It's only because we are keeping these resources for our future requirements, okay, for our future requirements. So, for example, river water can be used for generating hydroelectric power, but presently it is being utilized only only to a limited extent. And you know that if we construct a dam on a river, we can utilize the river water for producing electricity, hydropower, for fisheries, for recreation, for canal, I mean for drinking water. We can utilize it for number of purposes, but we are not using it. We can use it for future Okay, so the water in the dams, forest, all these are what? The examples. The forest, we have kept the forest, we are not utilizing the forest resources, but we are keeping it for future generations, right? For future generations or for future requirements. So thus the what, so and these two, the dam, the construction of dam or the forest, etc., is a reserve which can be used in the future. We are keeping these for our future requirements. Okay, so let us sum up this, what we have learnt in this chapter. What is a resource? Okay, what's a resource? And then second topic, the classification of resources, right? And then the classification in the types of resources or classification that we have discussed about, the classification of resources on the basis of origin, biotic, abiotic, on the basis of exhaustibility. Again, two classification, renewable resources and non-renewable resources, and on the basis of ownership, individual, community owned, national resources, international resources. Okay. Then on the basis of a status of development, potential resources, developed resources, and a stock. And finally, we have discussed about the reserve, right? So that's all about it today. We have discussed this chapter, and now there is one assignment for you. I have given two MCQs. Which of the following type of resource is iron ore, and under which of the following type of resource can tidal energy be put, and third one is how can resource be classified on the basis of origin. Then what do you mean by international resources? Then give two examples of renewable resources, define resources, how a resource is classified, and at last there is one question, distinguish between renewable and non-renewable resources. So we have discussed about it, about the first chapter, I mean few topics. That's all about it today. Thank you.